Hello, everyone. Today you're going to learn from an agent that issued the all-time monthly personal production record with $189,000 in 1 month on their own pen. If you can please help me welcome Greg Birch.
That doesn't get old.
It does not get old. And if you haven't noticed, Greg's been working out.
Quite a bit, yeah. I go to the gym every day.
We said right when you walked in, we go, dude, your arms are like 3 times bigger than the last time we saw you. Do you actually measure your arms?
I used to a long time ago. I haven't measured them in a while. I'd say they're probably 21 inches. Guesstimate.
You're an animal. So while you were writing 189,000, you're going to share how today.
Yes, sir.
But you also were working out.
Yes.
And eating good?
And eating very healthy and very clean, yes.
Tell us about what you did that month all the way around, personal and when it came to running appointments.
Okay. So that month I was doing training, podcast training every day with FFL, and then sharing that with my team and trying to learn from it. I do think that training every day is very, very important in order to kind of keep yourself grounded and humble. I worked out twice a day. Every single day. I worked out in the morning at the gym, and then I did an afternoon or evening workout depending on if I had a no-show or when my appointments ended, I would go outside and work out. Usually just do a run. And then I maintained a diet. I was on a keto diet and ate very healthy. It was like very strict in my diet.
Is that calorie based?
It's not calorie based. It's just basically I don't want to eat any carbs. So no carbs from sugars. I can eat carbs from fibers, so vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, stuff like that. Anything from fiber, but I can't eat anything from sugars. So, and then I read professionally, and I did scripture studies every single day. So I would usually, when I woke up in the morning, first thing I did was affirmations, and then I would read from the Bible for about 45 minutes, and then I'd read professionally. Last month, I think I read 2 full books. In the month. And then, I just ran a lot of appointments, an average of 8 to 10 per day.
We're going to get to that. But how much did you sleep?
Average 6 hours a night.
Go to bed at what time? Wake up at what time?
Usually, I try to get to bed by 10, but it didn't always happen that way. Usually I was in bed by 11, and I was up every morning about 4:30. So...
Dude, that's a lot that you just said. On top of running 10 appointments.
Yeah. So
a day. Every day.
Every day, except for Sundays. So what I found was this is just for me. I have a lot of bad luck on Sundays with appointments, and I figured if I can just front load all of my appointments Monday through Saturday, and my goal was to get a minimum of about 55 appointments a week. I averaged about 60 to 65. Then Sunday I could not have to worry about appointments. And most times I didn't even really do very well on Sundays anyways. I had a lot of no-shows, a lot of cancellations, and I kind of took it as a sign. I was like, hey, Lord, I won't do appointments on Sunday, so just bless me the rest of the week.
You know what this reminds me of? That saying, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like you spend X amount of time sharpening your axe, and then... Yeah. What is that? Do you know that saying?
Yeah, it's if you had like 10 hours to cut a tree, I'd spend 9 hours sharpening the axe and 1 hour chopping instead of just 9 hours or 10 hours chopping.
But the only thing is you were chopping during business hour, during hours you can make money, and you did all this other stuff sharpening your axe by getting up at 4:30.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is huge, because if people just start sharpening their axe all day, they never make any money.
That really is the key, I believe, is that like you're saying, the sharpening of the axe. Being able to do the things that I did, I think is what allowed me to be so successful. So it kept me grounded. It kept me like my personal, my professional, my social, my professional life. All of them need to be filled and kind of fed. And if I'd have just focused on professional, I feel like I would have burned out really quickly, and I wouldn't have been as successful if I'd done that. But since I was doing all those different things, I was fueling my spiritual, my physical, my mental, and my professional all together. It allowed me to be more efficient. Kind of like the example I use is like a car. If you have your car and the tires have to be filled properly, the oil has to be good, the gas has to be filled. The spark plugs has to be good. It has to be tuned up. But if your tires aren't filled all the way, it doesn't run properly. Or if you haven't changed your oil in forever, it starts to run sluggish. If your spark plugs aren't good, it's catching whenever you go to accelerate. So what I was doing is just making sure that my life, which is the car, was completely tuned up so that it could run efficiently, which allowed me to run at a speed, at a pace that was capable of doing the 189,000. So
now, do you drink alcohol?
I do not.
I ask people this because I'm interested on their performance, if it changes, even if it's from just a little bit of alcohol.
Mm-hmm. So I don't drink a drop at all. I used to. I used to drink heavily. There was a massive difference and massive shift that happened whenever I stopped drinking alcohol. There's lasting effects that happen with alcohol the days after, because it actually swells your brain a little bit, and it prevents a quick reaction. It makes it to where your thought process isn't as smooth for days after you drink. And so I noticed that once I jumped on the program I'm on, where I couldn't drink alcohol, that I just became more clear-minded. I was able to just operate at higher efficiency.
Yeah. So I haven't been drinking, not even like one or two, which normally you think wouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel way smarter.
Mm-hmm. Like it legitimately helps.
And faster. And I also feel like my energy levels are much higher.
Absolutely. So I think it was a combination of the keto, of no alcohol, everything. It just really did. My energy levels, even though I was only getting sometimes 5.5 or 5 hours of sleep, I felt completely energized the second that I woke up in the morning, like ready to go. Like I woke up, my alarm was set every morning for 5 a.m. That was my non-negotiable time to get up. But I typically, the first time I actually opened my eyes would be about 4:30, and I just naturally woke up that time, ready to go. So.
All right, so let's get in. So you did all these different things
Mm-hmm.
and had your biggest month, broke the all-time record with FFL, which is crazy to think about. You did all those things and did that, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody had challenged you and said that you couldn't do it, which probably pissed you off.
It did.
So somebody texted you and me in a text and said there's no way, because your goal was to do 100,000 in a month.
So well, if you remember at the beginning of this year, we went to conference, and I sat at conference, and I was really just upset because I sat there, conference in last year from the 2019 production year. I'd hit Hall of Fame. I'd hit vice president. I was on stage. I felt like I was more recognized. And this year I didn't hit Hall of Fame in 2020. My team was not VP anymore. My team had kind of dwindled, and I basically lost a lot of the momentum that I had. And so I went to conference, and I was a nobody, and it just really upset me. And I realized that I was upset at myself because I had stopped following the system. I had stopped being humble about it. I stopped training. I thought I knew everything. I thought because it was getting easier. And so I texted you, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm upset, but I'm upset at myself. So this is what I'm going to do this year, and I need you to hold me accountable. I'm going to do 100,000 in a month because it can be done."
Okay, go ahead. I have a question.
Yeah, as I say, I did 100,000, and then I'm going to be board member by the end of the year, and I need you to hold me accountable. And so when that challenge initially was issued by Nina Damjanovic, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to do 100,000. If I don't, I'm going to pay you $5,000," and you showed everyone, I was like, "Man, that's accountability right there. Like that's really accountable." So that was kind of like the spark that was like, I already told Andrew I was going to do this. Now's the time. Just do it. And so I had initially said, yeah, I'm in, and on that manager's call. And so, but it was like 2 days later. 2 days later, I was on a run, one of my second runs of the day, and it hit me. I was like, man, a lot of people have hit 100,000. I don't know how many. I think 10 maybe in FFL, but it's not uncommon now. And I was like, no, what's never been done is 200,000. I can do that. And it was processing in my brain. I was like, can I do that? I was like, it's possible. I think I can do it. And I was literally crunching the numbers of how many appointments I had to run versus my stats of like how many appointments usually I can sit with versus how many appointments I set and what my sell ratio is. And I was like, I think I can increase my numbers that much. So I had that conversation with you. I was like, I called you. I was like, I think I can do 200,000. This is what I need. And I asked you for help. And it was like right after that I got a text from somebody, and they're like challenging me, saying that they didn't think I could do 100,000. And I was like, dude, I'm already past that. I'm going to 200,000. But I didn't tell them that. I was like, I'm doing 200,000.
Your goal was already 200,000 at that point.
Yeah.
And then, but that definitely did it make you go, I'm going to show everybody I can do it?
Yeah. There was a little bit of that, but at the same time, I was competing more with myself and showing myself that I could do it. And also that I wanted to show their agents what could be done if you focus, if you follow the system, and you really dedicate yourself to it and really control your schedule. And that's everything. That really was everything for me, was controlling my schedule. Because like you're highlighting, hey, you did all these things and you still ran those appointments. Well, I realized when I was started crunching the numbers and going over my schedule, I literally blocked out every 15 minutes of the day from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed. And this same thought kept going through my head, which was like, 9 times out of 10, or I would have usually said, oh, I'm too busy for this. But I'm not busier than Sean Mike. I'm not even close. So how is he able to do more than me? And it's because he controls the schedule. He doesn't have more hours in the day. It's just that he's disciplined in his schedule and he controls his schedule. And so that's what I just really focused on, making sure that everything was accountable. So
I feel like this is like a Jocko Willink podcast or something.
Oh, well, I will take that as a compliment.
That's legit. All right. Now, break down how you do this. And also, I have a question. When the pandemic hit, you were doing a lot of Zoom sales.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess we're going to talk about this now.
And how did you do Zoom sales to do your 186,000, or was it in person? And what's your thought process on both of these things?
So at the start of the pandemic, I was running mortgage protection in another state. So I'm in Texas. I had locked out most of Oklahoma, the southern half of Oklahoma, and I would drive out there prior to the pandemic, and I would run 3 days, just running like mad, and then drive back to Texas. And I was just beating up my car. So pandemic hits, people don't want to meet anymore. And so it just hit me. I was like, man, I could probably do this on Zoom or FaceTime. And people started saying yes. So that's when I started developing that I guess skill set of doing that. And I figured actually this is working for me, and I continued doing it. I did it for most of 2020 into this year. So the problem with doing it remote like that is that your no-shows are higher, and the appointments, I can't be assumptive on the appointments. And so when I started this month, I knew I needed to make more appointments because of the no-show ratio. But then when I realized the time difference and how many appointments I was going to have to run and the assumptiveness that I could not have while in a Zoom, I realized that if I was doing mortgage protection, I need to be in the home. So that's when I started going in the home again for this month in April, just to make sure that, because I can literally finish an appointment within 30 minutes. I'm usually in the app within about 5. So I just didn't waste time. I got very, very assumptive in the home, and you can't do that when you're doing a FaceTime, Zoom, or like remote appointment. There's a lot of kind of hand holding and walking through that sales process in order to earn the trust that they're going to give you all their information with not being there.
Mm-hmm.
So
how many leads were you getting to book 10 appointments? Well, let's go back. Mm-hmm. You're saying you did that in home.
I did that in home, yes.
And what's your opinion on Zoom versus in-home?
Oh man, I always recommend my agents to do in-home first. You can be way more assumptive. Your sales, the ratio of the closing that you'll do is much higher in the home. And then your show ratio is going to be higher. My show ratio, and when I'm in the home, is probably about 65-70%, whereas on remote it's about 50% or less. So somewhere it hovers around 45 to 50%. So I have to get way more leads just to have the same exact performance. Not only that, because then also my sales ratios are going to be lower when I'm remote as well. Yeah. So I did mortgage protection. I did all in the home. And then I did have Facebook leads that I did remotely that I would do over the phone, but that was a very small percentage. That was of my overall sales. That was about 25% of that 190.
But you can
180,000.
you can do it.
You can do, yeah, I can do it, and anyone can do it. It's just it's a lot more difficult.
So an agent wanting to do that, if they can go in the home and they're new, you recommend go in the home.
Absolutely. Okay. The only reason I made it to where I could be effective when I'm on Zoom or remote is because I had been in the home for so long that it's easier for me to pivot. I don't need help from an upline. I know just by talking to a client which product and which carrier to go with, and I can verbalize and communicate that very well. A new agent doing that can't, and they're going to make a lot more mistakes. And you don't have the luxury of making those kinds of mistakes. In the home, I can make a lot. You can fumble through the sale and still make the sale. You cannot do that on a remote. It's not possible. You have to be way more efficient.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't. I've run, I don't know, 10,000 appointments probably. Mm-hmm. I could not do over the phone.
It's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I'd rather look them in the eye. I'd rather earn their trust. I'd rather do all that. Now, let's say somebody lives on an iceberg in Alaska.
Yeah. now I'll make an exception at this point.
Then Zoom's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah.
If there's not a few places they can go travel. But dude, I would even travel 2-3 days, run appointments before I did Zoom. But that's just me. Mm-hmm. And I know some people, they do like it. But I'm a big fan of new agents still going out and seeing people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There's been a higher amount of agents I've talked to when I'm hiring that are like, oh, I want to go remote. And I automatically tell them, don't do remote. Like if you think about doing remote, you're going to spend 2 to 3 times the amount of lead budget, and you're going to make less money doing that just because you're going to blow through so many appointments and you're not going to make the sale.
What's the no-show rate on a Zoom appointment?
It's at best 50%.
Okay, so
at best,
you're automatically losing. You automatically have to spend that much more in leads.
Absolutely.
What was your lead budget for last month?
Oh,
I do want to know.
I spent about $40,000 in leads.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I spent about $8,000 a week. So a lot of that was on online leads. So I spent about $600 a day average on internet life leads and Facebook leads. So every single day, just buy.
So did you hear that Facebook leads are now getting put in the system?
The instant Facebook leads. Yeah. I saw those
all over the U.S., dude.
Yeah.
Well, 10 states right now, but that's going to be convenient.
I'm actually very interested. I just saw that on Facebook. I'm interested to try this.
Yeah. All right. So you did that. What do you think your rejection rate was for the month?
I'd say I closed probably 60% of the people I sat with.
Okay, so 60% of the people you sat with, you closed. Yeah. So 40% told you no.
Yeah.
When somebody told you no, how hard did you push?
Oh, I pushed until it got really uncomfortable.
Tell us a story about that.
Okay, so
did anyone throw you out of their house?
No, it got close. It would get pretty close. Have you ever heard or read The Closer's Survival Guide by Grant Cardone? It's actually a really good book. So I read that during this past month, and in it he has like 126 different closes for like there's like 10 different closes for I want to think about it, or it doesn't fit in my budget and stuff like that. So. And basically he like teaches you how to systematically go from one to the next to the next and next and just keep pushing no matter what. So after I read it and I started practicing it, the first appointment that I had was this old vet, and he was getting a final expense policy. It was a Facebook final expense policy. And so he basically told me up front, he was like, yeah, I've talked to like people for the last couple of years and no one's been able to fit my budget. And he told me right up front, he's like, everyone keeps finding me policies that are right around $100 a month. And at first, initially I was just like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm just gonna go with Aetna and I'm gonna get him the preferred rate. And he's gonna get approved. Cause I was like, what's your health like? And I just jumped right in. I didn't even play around. So I was like, hey, what's your health like? What do you take? And talked to him. I was like, yeah, perfect. So I showed him the Aetna. I was like, hey, preferred, I can get you for, it was like $72 a month. I was like, how does that sound? He was like, oh, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Okay, perfect. So we started doing the application. And throughout the application, he starts dragging his feet. And he's like, he wouldn't give me a social first. And I was like, yeah, they have to look at your social because that's how they look at your medical records. That's how they even determine eligibility for coverage. Like, we've already talked about this. Let's do this. And he's like, okay. So we get all the way to the end and I'm getting his bank information. I get his routing. I go to get his account number and he won't give it to me. And he's like, yeah, no, I want to wait. And I was like, why? You already told me you've been waiting for 2 years for this, you know, why are you waiting? You know? And he was like, well, you know, I still got to think about it. I was like, well, again, Ron, you've been thinking about this for 2 years. So, you said that you know, what do you got to think about? There's typically 3 things. It's either A, that the product, does it make sense to you? And it does. It's a simple product. There's nothing that's convoluted about this. B, does it fit your budget? You just told me it did. C, do you trust me? And do you trust working with me, Ron? And he was like, oh yeah, it's not you. I trust you. You're fine. You're a vet too. It's really just, I don't know the company. I was like, it's Aetna and CVS. It's a big company, bro. Like, let's do this. And he was like, and that's one of the things that Grant Cardone does is let's do this. So I'm like, let's do this. And he's like, well, and he stops and he's like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I still got to figure out my budget. And I said, you already said it was about, you know, your budget, that it was going to be fine. I was like, think about this. If you don't do it, you're going to go another 2 years. Everyone's going to tell you no, it's getting more expensive by the year. You know, your wife's going to eventually you're going to pass away. Your wife's going to not have any money. Think about that. And he was like, yeah, I don't want that. Okay, so let's do this. And then he paused for a good 30 seconds just staring at me. And he was like, okay, can they take out twice a month? Half of it on the 1st, half on the 15th. I was like, no, Ron, they can't. he's like, well, my auto insurance does it. I was like, this isn't auto insurance, Ron. This is your life insurance. This is a different concept. It doesn't pay out the same way. And he was like, yep, nope, can't do it. I was like, Ron, you are going to do it, okay? And here's why you're going to do it. A, because you can just save the money on the 1st and we can put it on the 15th and you can pay it on the 15th. Because it was I think it was the 14th or something that we were sitting down. And I was like, and 2, I was like, I'm going to fight for you harder than you're fighting for your family right now. And obviously no agent has fought for you like this. So part of you getting this policy is that I'm going to be your advisor for all time. So that means I'm always going to fight for you. So we're going to submit this and we're going to see if we get you approved so that you can stop looking these things up and wasting people's time. Let's do this. And he was like, 2560932. I started reading out his but it was
you sold him?
I sold him. It was 7 objections I went through. It took for a $70 a month policy. And I was just like, man, I freaking did some work there.
I love it.
It took forever. And I was just getting frustrated by the end. I was just like, Ron, you're doing this. Let's go.
You know what's funny though? When you get really good, you do kind of change to where you go, you're doing it because it makes sense and I'm here to fight for you. Like, I like what you said there.
Mm-hmm. I became way more assumptive, way more assumptive. I didn't care if they said no, and anytime they say no or anytime they have an objection, it's not really objection, it's really complaint. So you got to kind of, what I did was I had a systematic process to kind of ask some questions to find out what were they complaining about. And then I just acknowledged it, then dismissed it like it didn't matter. And then say, hey, let's do this. There's one clause that's just and say if it fits out of their budget, and they're like, man, it's kind of expensive. And I was just like, yeah, it definitely is. Do it anyways. Let's go. And they're like, okay.
Dude, so I at one point in time when I was getting really good in the field, I would walk up to your door. Okay. Uh-huh. You'd answer. Usually they go, how can I help you? Because a lot of times they wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
I go, I'm Andrew. I'm your new insurance agent. And then just start walking in, right? And then I go, let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to review your insurance and we're going to make sure we put you in the best possible situation ever. Mm-hmm. We're just going to need some of your information, make sure to have your checkbook, and we're either going to increase your coverage that you currently have or save you some money, which I'm sure you want to do both. But it
set the stage.
Bro, and they're just like, okay.
Yeah. when you're that assumptive, it really does help. My final expense has gotten so assumptive. I start the application before I even show them any prices, and I get them through the Americo questionnaire all the way until they've given me their beneficiary. Then I go back to the product page and say, hey, congratulations, you're pre-approved. Americo's pre-approved you based on all the information. So they're recommending that, if you're for your burial, the max they can give you is 30,000, but they're really recommending 20,000. And minimum you should do is probably 15. So 30,000 would be 258, 20,000 would be 145, and 15,000 would be, 110. Now, if you passed away tomorrow, it pays out. So if you passed away tomorrow, what check do you want to go to your beneficiary? And I use the beneficiary's name. What check do you want to go to Sheila? Do you want Sheila to get a $30,000 check? Do you want to get a $20,000 check? Or do you want to get a $15,000 check? And I just wait. And I'm like, well, I want her to get $30,000, but $20,000 fits better my budget. And I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I would have picked.
Dude, but people want this.
Yeah. It's that simple.
You don't go to the doctors and they go, do you want to take this medication or this medication? They go, take this and you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And that's what people want.
Exactly. And so that's why I just jump into the application. I don't show them prices. I ask them questions. I do the inventory. I determine the need. I hammer that for about 3 minutes max. And then I ask some broad medical questions, and I say, hey, ultimately we're going to have to see if you can even get approved. They're going to do a prescription medical check through your MIB, your Medical Information Bureau, and we're going to do that right now. But that's going to tell me if our premier partner can approve you. If not, then I have other carriers that we can flex to. So let's go ahead and jump into the application real quick. We're going to get that check done. And I just jumped in, and then I would go through it.
Legit.
So, but it sped up on time. That was one of the things. You can't do that remote. I couldn't do that remote. So that allowed me to usually, like I said, I was in an application usually about 5 to 6 minutes in starting the application. So
love it. Now you're building an agency. If someone wanted to work with you, how can they contact you?
So they can text me. My cell phone number is 931-249-7363. Text me, preferred to call, because I get a lot of phone calls from random numbers and I don't answer. So just text me.
And say, hey, I'm interested in working with FFL.
Absolutely.
They can be with FFL. I mean, they can be licensed or unlicensed. You can help either one.
Absolutely.
And you're building a team and helping people.
Absolutely.
One last question.
Yeah.
How much, do you take pre-workout, caffeine? What do you do in the gym?
So I wake up in the morning and I take early bird. Which is awesome. It wakes you up instantly. It's got a little bit of caffeine, but not much. And then I take a very small amount of pre-workout, and I drink up BCAAs and EAAs, which are branched chain amino acids and essential amino acids, all day throughout the day.
What's the idea behind early bird?
Early bird is it's like a morning cocktail, they call. It's supposed to help you to wake up and activate all of your brain functions and your senses. And it actually works really, really well. It just gets you going. It motivates you in the morning. So I shake it in the morning. It's sitting at my bedside table. I shake it, I pound it. And then within 5 minutes, I'm going.
Dude, I've always wanted an alarm clock that if you don't wake up, it dumps a cold bucket of ice water on you.
Or it starts deducting money from your bank account.
Yeah.
So I heard one of your podcasts where there's somebody that had some extreme program where if you missed something, they would deduct money from you. It was a while ago. I heard this podcast.
I don't remember, but Grady goes, hey, I'm not going to drink and I'm going to work out every day for 2 months. And I go, if you don't, you owe me $5,000. And he says, okay. And I'm like, dude, that's the best bet I've ever made.
You think he's going to make it?
I think he'll make it.
You think he'll make it? That's good. I've had so many people reach out to me and be like, what is this 75 hard? I want to do it. And I just sent them the podcast. I'm like, hey, go listen to it. It'll change your life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm proud of you, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good work, and thank you for coming in. Thanks for sharing. You're inspiring a lot of people, and let's keep killing it.
Yes, let's do it. Let's grow this company to $1 billion a year.